Hello. Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
How are you doing?
Okay.
All right. Let us begin, and I will start by sharing my screen. I hope I didn't close anything by mistake. Let's see. So I'll take you to the class so I can show you what is due at this week. Okay, I have Monica. I'm taking down your names at the same time. Robertson. All right. Let me take you there. B-triple-C. And right. So I hope you can see the screen. This is your class right here. And these are the things that are due this week. Okay. Read chapter 10 or the course textbook, and to read, study lecture 9, then do homework 9 at the same time. So these are the things that you are expected to complete this week. Now, let's begin. Tonight, we'll be focusing on effective leadership and human relations. So, many authors or many researchers have written a lot about human effective leadership and human relations. Many researchers and authors have written about this, but one of them is very prominent. His name is Peter Drucker. He was an Austrian. He's from Austria, but he's trained, or he was trained in economics and law. So he eventually migrated to the United States in 1937, where he became a professor. So let's look at his conclusions about management and leadership. The first one is that workers should be treated as assets. Now, usually asset is something that is which can be a property that is can be considered wealth used to produce more wealth. So we have liquid assets like cash, or we have physical assets like buildings, factory buildings, equipment and tools, and so on and so forth. Then we have human capital, or what's called human assets. So that's why he said, because it is the workers who have the knowledge, the expertise, abilities, skill set, and experiences that are very invaluable and intangible for securing the future of the company. So because of that, Peter Drucker said that workers should be treated as assets. So he treat assets because assets being the goods that lay golden eggs. So you treat it with respect, and make it something that is paramount, very important, and that should be treated with respect and I would say appreciation. So that is what he has in mind when he said that workers should be treated as assets. Now, we all know that companies, I think we have mentioned it in one of our lectures, that companies are treat that have a treat their workers good, always get the best from them. So when you treat workers like assets, that means making sure they are well taken care of, well respected, and their opinions are always evaluated and considered when making key decisions in the company or organization. So that made them to feel at home, to feel that they are celebrated, and then in return, they give you their best. Another conclusion made by Peter Drucker is that the organization should be considered as a human community. So the organization has people working for them. People can be people from these different races or ethnic groups, people from different places, people with different skill sets. So it is basically the organization and its people in a particular space. So they should be treated as community, or they should be considered as a community. So, when you live in a community, you want to, especially if you are the leader in the community, you want to encourage cordial relationship among the members of the community. The same thing is what Peter Drucker is suggesting that should be done in an organization. So they should be considered as a human community. Next thing he mentioned, that there is no business without a customer. Yes, if you're making a product and you may be passionate about those products. Now, if that product doesn't have a market, nobody's buying it in as much as you love the product. But if the product have no market, that means that you don't have a business. Now, there might be a market for the product. It might be a niche market. And if you don't know how to reach those niche customers, it might be you don't have a business. No matter how much you love the product or service. Okay. Now, but if your business have a customer, then you have a business. I'll give you some few examples of things like that. There used to be a time when the publishing industry is a very big industry. Most people get their news or reading materials either from the radio, the television, and the newspapers and magazines, the physical ones. Now, the internet came and disrupted all of those things. So it became now difficult for publishers and writers, sometimes to make payroll because of this big competition. So now, in this case, it doesn't mean that there's no market for published material. There are markets, but the market is increasingly getting slimmer and slimmer because of the tons of publications that are done online. So any publishing company or any author have to become business savvy. You have to be good in marketing to be able to survive. So if you're not good with those, if you don't have that in mind, and you publish materials that are not people are not interested in reading, that means you have no business. So you have to think of, in as much as I want to publish a book about, for example, if I want to publish a book about my neighborhood by Baltimore, maybe publish about the dairy industry in Baltimore, but what people want to read is something about the royal family, and you're publishing something about the dairy industry in Baltimore, then you have no customer. Yeah. I mean, you must have a customer. Of course, there are going to be people who will buy your material, but how many of them Are they enough to give you enough cash flow to sustain the business? If there are not enough of them, you have no business. So you have to think of what customers want to read and then give it to them. And many newspapers and magazines and other publishers who did not follow this mantra of becoming business savvy have actually closed down. So again, Peter Drucker said there is no business without a customer. No business without a customer. Okay. So next thing he mentioned is this: there may be born leaders, but there are few. These are few. And effective leadership, according to him, can be learned. Yeah, people say that leaders are born. Well, it might be true. And there's no doubt that there are some people who are born. We are born with different skill sets. Something that is easy for somebody, for a person, might be difficult for another person. So we have all our different skill sets. There are people who are born and they are very good with numbers. There are many who are not good in numbers, but they are good in making good in writing or with letters. In the same way, there are people who have born and they have some of the majority of the skill set that a good leader is supposed to have. But there are very few of them. Very, very, very few. Most leadership skills, I would say majority of them, are learned from experience. So that's what Professor Drucker is saying here, that even though there may be born leaders, people who are born to be leaders, who are born with natural skills, natural leadership skills, those are very, very few. Most of them, majority of the leaders, good leaders we know, learn their skills either through education or through experience or practice. He also stated that without followers, there can be no leaders. And that it is trust that is the glue that binds the leaders and followers together. Yes, people like to follow your advice or respect the leader if they trust the leader, if they believe that the leader will lead them to the promised land. When I say promised land, I mean whatever goal, good or objective that they want to achieve for the organization or for the country. Excuse me. So trust. If they don't trust you, it becomes hard to follow the leader. If you look at some countries that have dictatorships, like Russia, North Korea, and many Asian and African countries, people actually, for many of their leaders, people don't really follow them. They are compelled out of fear to do what the leader is saying. But if there's some countries where people actually trust the leader enough to vote him or her in, like in Western Europe and the United States and Canada, people are so okay. We want to vote for you because we believe that he can give us the best. But in many countries, even including my own country, Nigeria, people are most people most of the elections are rigged, and then somebody comes in and becomes a leader, and then people, even though people are disenchanted, but those that are involved, especially the civil servants, and of course the other government departments, they obey, they follow don't really follow, they are compelled to do what he or she says, as he or she is directed, out of fear of punishment and so on and so forth. A country like Iran, which is the I would say the only theocratic state we know. People just out of fear, they follow what the government, they follow as the government directed, because of they know what will happen to them if they go against government. Uh, but in those countries, things are not really working normal. The economy might be bad. Its economy is bad. There's no freedom of speech. Economic growth is next to nothing. And people don't generally feel that they are being led the right way by the establishment. But compare that to advanced countries like Western Europe and United States and Canada, I can see that there's a big difference. Now, the same thing with companies, corporations where people who work for them trust the management and the leadership, they tend to do better because their employees want to stay with the company. They trust the company, they want to stay with the company, and they are therefore, because they trust the company and they want to stay with the company, they give their best through their work, and then the company continues to get better and better. But if the company is, if the workers don't trust the company, you see them leaving the company to join the competitor. So by the time you know it, the company will start struggling because of the fact that they have workers who are not competent enough, or not. They might be competent enough, but because they don't feel celebrated, so they are just giving putting effort that is barely enough to sustain the company. Then Professor Drucker also mentioned that leadership is not a rank, privilege, or title. It is a responsibility. So as a leader, you are actually going to be working more than your followers. So if their followers are working 40 hours a week, you are working 60 hours a week. So it's a responsibility to make sure that things are run right. Now, next thing he mentioned is that popularity is not a leadership, and it is not a leadership style or personality. So leadership is about results. What have you achieved after leading the company through this quarter or through this year? What have the company achieved? Is there a growth? Do they have more customers? What happened to the profit? And so on and so forth. So that's all this will make you a leader. If all these things are giving you the right signals, that means you are doing a good job as a leader. But if they are not, in that case, you need to be reassess and recalibrate your leadership style to make sure that all these things that I mentioned, talking about the profit, customer base, and of course, growth. What has happened to those things? So because of these items that or conclusion that Professor Drucker enumerated, and some leaders have used this to apply this to their work in various agencies, companies and agencies, and made really good progress. They regard Peter Drucker as a really equivalent to a genius. I mean, when it comes to the principles of leadership and management. So in 2005, Fortune magazine, Business Week, and Wall Street declared him to be the greatest management thinker and writer of all time. Now, and also these ideas that he advocated for influence big time business founders like the Gates and the entire Japanese business establishment. So today we endorse his influence endures today, especially in the booming economies of Asia, and where the old school values like integrity and humility fit well with their Confucian heritage. At this point, we can now look at some of the other advices that came from Peter Drucker. So the advice include the following: that leaders should determine what needs to be done. Yes, this is our objective, this is our goal. What can be done to achieve those goals and objectives? They have to make that the determination right from start. That's what Peter Drucker is saying. So they also need to determine the right thing to do for the welfare of the entire organization. Because just like your body, if your body is healthy, it functions better. You function better. You work better. You are happier. You are, your life your general life will become more good and enjoyable. The same thing with the organization. So if everything is working well on the organization, the working condition is good, salary is good, employees feel respected and celebrated, then the company will naturally be doing well, because those employees will dig hard, dig deep to find out what they can contribute to continue to make that company or organization great. So leaders should develop action plans that specify the desired results, probable restraints, future revisions, checking points, and implications for how one should spend one's time. I think I mentioned it already in my explanation. So having a good plan with regard to the desired results, probable restraints, future revisions, checking points, and implications for how employees or leaders should spend their time. They should have it, especially how the leader should spend his time or her time. Now, even if there is a mistake, then leaders should take responsibility for the mistake. So if there's a mistake, might be resolved from the decision the leader made, and then the workers they made the decision, they developed the leaders made the decision, then they developed the action plan for carrying out those decisions. And if in the process that decision leads and the implementation of that decision leads to positive outcome for the company, then the leader should take responsibility. If, however, the result of those decisions and implementation of those decisions made the company to lose money or led to a bad outcome, the leader should also take responsibility. So knowing that you are going to take a responsibility for the outcome of those decisions will naturally make you to be to evaluate every decision you make to ensure that they are good ones that will lead to a desired positive outcome. So now they should also take responsibility for communicating action plans and give people the information they need to get the job done, which is very, very important. The employees are always, especially those in the floor, always looking for the directive or direction of where to move, where to go, or the task to be that will be performed. So the leader pass it through the middle management to supervisors to the workers themselves. So leaders should take responsibility for communicating those, for making sure that this vital information is communicated all the way to the floor, so that what the people will be doing will align with the decisions and objectives of the organization. Yeah. Then it says focus on opportunities instead of problems, and treat change as an opportunity instead of a threat. So that's one of his advice, or Drucker's advice. Drucker's advice. So for the leader to focus on opportunities instead of problems, because there's no business decision or task or any direction that the company want to go to that do not have some challenges. So if you focus only on challenges, you may not want to make a decision that will benefit the company eventually, because you are more focused on the challenges that you encounter when implementing some decisions. Now, if you focus on that, that can be a complete turn-off to the leader, because the negative outcome of the negative the challenges, which I would say negative, not, I won't say outcome, negative. The best way, I think the best word would be, if you are too pessimistic because of those challenges that you will see, which is the problems, it might end up seeing a decision that have its challenges, but if implemented, will generate significant profit or large positive outcome for the company. You avoid it because you are focused more on the challenges. So that's what Professor Drucker is discouraging that. He's saying focus on the opportunities. Then while following those up, we're trying to make decisions that will enable the company to take advantage of those opportunities. You encounter the challenges. Now, again, those challenges, you can turn those challenges into an opportunity as well, and then accomplish the goal of the organization. Then he says, run productive meetings. Different types of meetings require different forms of preparations and different results, but leaders need to plan accordingly. So during the meetings, the employees have the opportunity of having a direct contact with the leadership. They can ask questions. They can make suggestions with respect, or as it concerns the objective or goal the company wants to achieve at the given time. So then another suggestion or advice that Drucker made is for leaders to think and say we instead of I. Yes, because as a leader, you are considering the needs and opportunities of the organization before thinking of. You should be considering that before thinking of your own and needs. Because now, again, remember he mentioned the organization should be seen as a community. So you are just leading that community. So you look at what is good for the community. In this case, the community is the company or organization. So that use of we should be more common with you as the leader than I. Then last but not the least is here where he says that leaders should listen first and speak last. Yes, having a good listening skill is one of the a very important characteristics of a good leader. You have to know the leader. Some people might not have the patience to listen to various suggestions being made by the subordinates. And because of that, they end up making big mistakes. But as a good leader, you should be able to have, you should be patient enough and humble enough to listen. Having good listening skill will make you to hear from suggestion from different perspective, from the floor, from the middle manager, even from the top management. All their suggestions, they are making those suggestions based on their experience. Now you can now know how to pick the good, what you consider good, and of course practical ones. When I say practical, I mean realistic suggestion, and then drop the one that you think might be good, but they are not realistic. Yeah. Nobody knows everything. You can't know everything. There are some that you know very well. There are some that you can get from the suggestions made by your subordinates. Does anybody have questions so far? What I have said?
No.
Okay.
No questions.
Good. Okay, very good. So Drucker believes that rule number 1 to 2 and 2 provide knowledge to leader to provide knowledge that leaders need. That is the suggestion that he made in part 1, which is determine what needs to be done and determine the right thing to do for the welfare of the organization. So this one, according to Drucker, provide the knowledge that leaders need. Then rule 3 through 6, that means to develop action plans and then take responsibility for actions, take responsibility for communicating action plans, and focus on opportunities. This helps the leader to convert knowledge into effective actions. Then rule 7 to 8, which involve running productive meetings and thinking and saying we instead of I, ensure that the whole organization feel responsible and accountable. And of course, rule 9, which is having a good listening skill and speaking last, should be the commandment of the leader. Okay. Now, so these proven principles of leadership, we can now take a look at some proven principles of leadership. Now, some leadership principles have optimum positive influence on followers. And effective leaders like A.D. Robinson and Paul Bryant in the field of sports followed universal principles of leadership that brought out the best in the pride and performance of people. So some of these leadership principles, we call them leadership by competence. If you follow those principles, you are leading by competence. And they apply to all levels of leadership and in all fields of work. So some of those principles have been explored by different researchers and writers. And so, I'll mention it, I'll discuss a few of them here. So the writer, Herminia Ibarra, mentioned this. If one demonstrates tried and proven leadership behavior, people will confirm your competence. And this recognition will lead to more opportunities to be a leader. But in any case, I want to show you some of those principles. No need to go through go directly to what some of these writers are saying. Let me just take you to the principles of by using examples of leaders who have done that. So I'll use somebody like Steve Jobs. And I think Steve Jobs should be good enough. Yep, let's use Steve Jobs as a case study. So Steve Jobs adhered to some of those principles, which is universal to all leaders. And because of that, his adoption of those principles, he is widely recognized as a transformational leader. And of course, we know how he transformed the Apple computer company to become a global company that produce goods that people really value a lot. So Jobs literally saved Apple from collapse because he applies some of those principles. What are those principles? Well, I have them listed here. One is focus. Focus. Decide what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. The other one is simplify. Zero is one, in one essence, eliminate unnecessary components, make things simple. Okay. One is own. I think I mentioned this one. Own responsibility. If there's a failure in that direction that you're leading them, own responsibility for that. But knowing that you are going to be responsible for the outcome, it makes you to always make good decisions so that what you'll be responsible for will be the outcome of a good result from your decisions. Compete. Well, competition, always remember that you have competitors and try to outsmart your competitors by doing the right thing always. Okay? Prioritize, make the right product and profit, and then profit will follow. Intuit, listen to your feelings, not only to your intellect. Bend, create a convincing reality through sheer mental force. Present, well, of course, the package the product you present should be what is pleasing. As you can look at all the products that are made during Steve Jobs' time at Apple. See, Apple, iPod, iPad, smartphone, they are something that is, when you look at it, is naturally people like Apple products. Perfect. Make sure that you try. Of course, you cannot be perfect, but try to make sure that any product or service you provide is always, as much as you can, close to perfection. Demand. Expect good people to do great things, and they will deliver. So give them the impression that you expect them to do the good thing, and they will give you what you want. Communicate. People who know what they are talking about don't need PowerPoint. So you communicate to them. If they understand what you need, they would deliver it to you. Engage. So mix and mingle where the work will get done. Make yourself approachable, reachable to your employees. Attend. Both the big picture and the minute details matter. So make sure Steve Jobs is known to do that. He always making sure that every detail is covered. Then imagine combine art and science to create the best, which is what Steve Jobs did. And commit, stay hungry, and stay foolish. So you're hungry to develop new things, to keep improving the existing products you have. So by applying this model, Steve Jobs did that, and he hired the best people to work for him, like people like Fred Anderson, Tim Cook, Johnny Ive, and he's always charismatic. And what was the outcome? Apple became one of the best company in the world. Now, this is gonna time us out in a few minutes. Remember, when they time us out, wait for 10 minutes and then log back in. Okay? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, when the time us out, wait for 10 minutes, then log back in so that we can finish it. Yeah.